This video is part of my ongoing series on how to clean the controls on NuTone remote intercom speaker stations. This is a model 2550. This speaker was used with intercom models 2540, 2541, and 2542. This is a 6-wire speaker. This is the 5-inch version. It was also available in an 8-inch speaker. There were wall controls with separate ceiling mounted speakers, and there are also patio stations. This is a nice speaker. It's a better design than other models made at the same time. You have a rotary volume control on the left and 2 intercom buttons. The button on the right is door speaker, which is either on as you push it down or it turns off when you let it back up. And intercom, push to talk, release to listen. These controls get dirty over time. The rotary volume controls will become scratchy and intermittent as they get dirty, and the intercom switches get dirty and will create a lot of scratchy, staticky noise as you operate the controls. I'm going to show you how to clean. On the back of the speaker, you'll see the 5-inch diameter speaker cone. This series of NuTone intercoms use 45 ohm speaker cones. As a point of interest, this speaker was made in 1973. Here we have the model number sticker. It's still on it. This is a new old stock speaker. It's never actually been installed. It's one of the ones out of my inventory. You have a single circuit board with screws to attach the wires that come in from the master station. There's a label which indexes which screws are which wires. You can see here on the back of the circuit board is the volume control. The intercom switches are on the opposite side of the board, so to clean them properly, this board will have to be removed. To remove the circuit board, there are just 2 mounting screws with washers under them, one on the right and one on the left. This cleaning can easily be done while the wires from the master station are still attached. It's not necessary to disconnect all of the wires unless you really want to. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove the screws. With the screws removed, you can take the board out of the faceplate and flip it over. You can see the 2 plunger style slide switches which operate the intercom and the knob for the rotary volume control. If you carefully remove the push button caps from the plunger switches, it'll make the cleaning that much easier. The plunger switches have 2 access points to clean them. On the back, there are openings in the switch, here and here. This makes the cleaning easy, but it also makes it easy for the dirt to get into the switch. You can also flip it over, and from the plunger end, there are gaps where the plunger moves down through the body of the switch, and this is an area that cleaner can be sprayed into also. To clean the rotary volume control, you'll do that from the solder side of the board, and like all NuTone volume controls, you're looking for small gaps in the housing where you can get the spray inside the volume control. Sometimes you'll see on the round body of the switch there may be a little hole punched in it. That's another good place to spray cleaner. Take your rag, put it under the board to catch the overspray. Use your Deoxit D5 that we've talked about in other videos. This is available online. Buy a can, it'll last you a lifetime. As I've said before, this is a less is more project. It doesn't take a lot of cleaner to be effective. What you want to really do is assess how effective your cleaning is going by judging how much improved the controls operate. If your volume control is very stiff and hard to move it with your finger before you start cleaning, then add a little bit of cleaner and rotate the control some more. Immediately I can feel the difference. Even though this is a new old stock speaker and it's never been installed, it's been sitting in its box for the last 42 years, and it certainly is in need of some cleaning. So that's much improved. Another good way to assess how effective you're being while you clean the volume control and the push button switches is to do this while your intercom system is playing music from the radio. As you're listening to the speaker and you're cleaning it and you're turning the volume control, you'll hear the scratchiness disappear, and when it's smooth and even with no dead spots, you know that it's been cleaned enough. To do the push button switches, I like to start with the ends of the switches that have the large holes. Again, it only takes a little bit of cleaner in the switch, and then you can operate the switch to work the cleaner down inside. Because this is such a long switch, this is almost 2 inches long, and since the contacts inside the switch are on each side of the body, inside the body of the switch, on the long sides, on this side and on this side, the cleaner has to make its way all the way down through the switch. So you spray a little bit. You can, if you want, wait as it sort of drains down through the switch and then operate it. And you keep doing that until you see a noticeable improvement. Sometimes it's helpful if you spray from the plunger side of the switch. So here we have the little white plastic plunger that the knob fits onto. There's a retainer clip and a spring, and then on the top of the switch is this red cap. And what you want to do is put your spray nozzle next to the spring and spray down between the plunger and the red cap to let the cleaner work down from the top, and then operate the switch some more. Again, if you do this while the system is operating, you'll hear the scratchiness of the switch slowly disappear as you work it back and forth and clean it. If your speakers have never been cleaned, you may have to do this 3 or 4 times for each. For excessively dirty and noisy switches, the cleaner, the Dielectric D5 on its own may not be enough to quiet them down to your liking. One thing I'm going to caution you on: do not disassemble these switches. Don't desolder them from the circuit board, and certainly don't remove the retaining clip which allows the plunger to slide out of the body of the switch. You can only really do this if you're very, very confident and very, very sure of your ability to put the switch back together. Inside, on either side of the plunger, where it fits through the body of the switch, there are small metal contacts that are not actually fastened to the plunger. They're just held in place lightly, and the switch has to be slid back in. It's very difficult, if you've never done this, to reassemble it. If you can't get it back together, finding a replacement switch may not be possible, and then you've got a real problem. So don't take the switch apart. What I like to do for really, really dirty switches is add something back to the switch which they had in them when they were new. Most switches, or plunger style switches, when they're assembled new at the manufacturer, they'll have some sort of lubricant added to the inside to allow them to slide freely, and it helps prevent the metal parts inside the switch from corroding while they're sitting on the shelf waiting to be put into a product, or sitting on a distributor's shelf waiting to be sold and then put into use. This type of lubrication in switches is often referred to as a dielectric jelly. Basically, it's a fancy word for something like Vaseline, although it's not Vaseline. And it can be added back into the switch, and if it's done properly, you don't have to disassemble the switch to do it. The product I like to use is also made by the Dielectric company. This is a product they call Fader Grease. This is the large tub, which contains 226 grams, which will probably last me 2 years in the shop, and I use this every day. This is the grease model number DFG213. They make this in smaller quantities, and also they make it in preloaded plastic syringes, which comes in handy for this type of job. For our use in the shop, I have some small plastic syringes that I picked up at the local hobby store, and I just simply put the grease in there and use them this way because it's less expensive. So what you can do on excessively noisy switches where the cleaner helps in how they function, but it doesn't completely quiet down the scratchiness as you operate the switch, you can inject the fader grease or a dielectric jelly into the switch with the plastic syringe. I have the tip cut off to a very small hole because I want to control how much comes out. And this is a fairly thick consistency, so it's not going to run all over the place. What you have to do is the goal is to get the grease down in the sides of the switch where the contacts are. So if you put the tip of the syringe in through the hole of the switch, pushing it against the back of the plunger, you can force some grease down into the switch, and you might be able to see there's a little bit there. So I did one side, and then I'll do the other side, and then you have to operate the switch to try to move the grease down through the body of the switch. And as you do that, you may have to inject a little more. On a really long switch like this, it's a little bit tedious and it takes a little bit of time to do this, but if you work at it, it'll be beneficial. Sometimes the other thing you can do on a really long switch is you can thin the grease out just a little bit by using some of your D5 cleaner, and what you want to do is just put the littlest bit in there, and it will help dissolve the grease a little bit, and as you work it, the fluid will work it down through the switch, and this can make a large difference in how well your switch operates and how noisy it is. On a really long switch like this, it's kind of difficult to get it all the way down through the switch. It'll take some time. On the short switch, it usually is very effective. I did a repair on a master station yesterday that used these type of switches, and after 2 applications of the grease, all the scratchy noise in the switch was gone. After you've cleaned the push button switches and the volume control, you'll need to put the caps back on before you insert it back into the faceplate. These type of rectangular caps, which are used on a lot of NuTone intercom speakers, actually have a right way and a wrong way that they fit on. Inside the back of the cap, there are little plastic standoffs molded into it. So these caps actually have an offset. They'll bias their direction either towards the front of the speaker grill or the back of the speaker grill, depending on which way you put it on. If you put it on backwards, when you operate the button, it will hang up against the plastic of the grill and it won't operate freely. So when you remove these, it's good to notice which side the standoff is biased towards. In this particular speaker, the standoffs in the center go towards the front of the speaker. They'll be the same on every station, but it varies from model to model, so you always have to check and be sure. So simply put these back on the stems and push them down, making sure they're the right way around, and then insert it back into the grill. Making sure the speaker wires are out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and put the two. With the switchboard assembly mounted back in the faceplate, you can check the operation of the push buttons to make sure the caps are on the right way around and they don't hang up, and these are fine. The volume control now works smoothly, and this speaker, if it were in your home, is ready to go back on the wall. If you have a normal house, that means you have one done and probably 5 or 6 more to do. So work through them one at a time. Sometimes you'll notice that on the stations that get the most use, after a week or two and some of the cleaner has dried away, some of the scratchiness may have returned, you can simply pop it off, give it one more little spray. That should take care of it, and you're probably good for the next 4 or 5 years. Hope this helps you out. If this video helps you, please like it on YouTube. If you think it's a useful bit of information that other people can benefit from, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It raises our rankings on YouTube, which simply means that other people will find this video and it'll help them with their intercom problems. Thanks for watching.